and I think everyone out there that has even looked at Dag knows who the other gentleman is. How's it going, Dagnum?
It's going good, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you coming, man. We're very, very excited to learn more about Dag and kind of what has transpired this past week at the DC Blockchain Summit, and just get a better idea of what's coming. So we'll kick it right off. I kind of wanted to, because you've been involved with DAG for so long, and one of the leading voices for the community. If you could, share a little bit. I got up on the screen now, the Stardust Collective, which you're of course a part of. But if you can tell us a little bit about how you found DAG, what made it stand out to you, and why you've dedicated so much time and effort to to grow the community, because I mean you're a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the journey with Constellation itself, happened in the later stages of 2019 and 2020. So at work, I was the stock portfolio guru guy. I was telling people insights into upcoming things that people should just probably pay attention to. And one of those things was Palantir. So I was telling everybody months and even years before Palantir IPO'd why I believed Palantir was a solid investment. And it was during one of those discussions when somebody heard me talk about Palantir, and they said, well, if you like Palantir for all of the reasons that you just stated, you should look at this company called Constellation, because these are the kinds of things that they're doing. And I was like, holy crap, like if any of what you just said was true, like even a tenth of what you said was true, like this is going to be a game changer, because this is the way that everything is going. Mm-hmm. So I took an entire weekend. I read every white paper. I read, like, seriously, I read every.
You had trouble sleeping then?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not exaggerating. Like, I read every paper. I read just about every news article, and I had years to catch up on, because they launched in 2017, right? So I had years of stuff to catch up on. I watched all of those old coffee talks that they had, and I was blown away. And I went and I looked at the price, and then the price was like near bottom. It was like 0.004 or something like that. I mean, it was like half a penny. And then I was like, man, this is crazy. So how come nobody's talking about this? So then I went online just to see like what everybody was talking. And on then it was called Twitter. Like nobody was talking about this stuff. And then the guy at work was like, oh, well, that's because everybody's in Telegram. And I was like, what? I was like, what the fuck is Telegram? And he's like, oh, it's just this app, that people use. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so I downloaded Telegram. I joined the channel, and I understand how these subcultures on the internet work. So I just lurked for a while, just absorbing the community, and then finally I was like, look, you guys aren't doing it right. Like, you guys can be in here in this little Telegram community, circle jerking each other, but
it's obscure as shit.
Yeah, it's like nobody's gonna know anything if you're not out there like pounding the pavement. Like, here's what you need to do, and then so like I would go find, I don't know, like Mark Cuban, for example.
Yeah,
and I would make not like a shilly, but like a relevant reply to whatever he was talking about that was relevant in the tech space, and I would reply to him, and I understood how the algorithm worked, because I'm going to digress a little bit, but like I used to, back in the day, I used to have a gaming channel. I was one of the top Battlefield players in the world. And, and I had a pretty good following. And so I understand how the algorithm works and all that stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, look, everybody in this Telegram right now, like reply to my reply, right? And
Yeah.
like that's how you like, glitch the algorithm.
Mm.
And so I'm like, that was sort of the genesis of Dagnum, and so I made this whole online persona just to kind of play off of Dag and like a memeable name. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
my name was playing off of Magnum PI. And so that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you that aren't old bastards like us,
Yeah.
it was Tom Selleck back in the day when he was running around in Hawaii with a Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like the genesis of how I got started with Dag and, Dagnum. So Stardust, like what you have pulled up there,
Yeah.
is the community side. It's like the DAO, if you will. It's the community run organization that's part of the broader ecosystem. So it's separated from the core foundation, and it
Mhm.
was initially it was started by a bunch of node operators.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as a collective, as a DAO, the node operators uh, joined together to start this DAO to um, broaden the community. And so the goal here is like expanding the community, developing the community, educating everybody about Constellation Network. So it's not any it's similar to the like Algorand Foundation. They're separate from Algorand, the core company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hedera's got their foundation. Cardano's got their so a Constellation is
Mm.
the same thing. So it's two separate things, but with the same goal in mind, just the expansion of the ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, just a vehicle to educate people on the project.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Like I said, I pulled it up, and even with all the research I've done on DAG, for whatever reason, I had never been to the Stardust Collective website, and it looks like there's some decent information here. You got about if you want to build on Constellation DAG, there's you can go to that part of the website, and I know that you and I'm gonna destroy his name. Is it Jow? Jow?
It's Joao.
Joao.
Yeah. So
I
it's
saw
it.
I saw
Wow.
you guys going back
Yeah.
and
So
forth.
you pronounce it Joe Wow. Joe
Joe
Wow.
Joe,
Wow.
wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, like what was it? A couple of days ago, you and him were going. Oh, it was. I know I'm dead naming him, but or her, but Bruce Jenner.
Yeah.
I grew up idolizing the guy. He was on all the Wheaties boxes and stuff like that. So it's hard for me to see him otherwise. But anyway, I guess she launched a project, and you guys were kind of pinging her saying, "Hey, we can build this out on DAG," and Joe Wow said that he'd be willing to do it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, she started to become aware of base. And so the
Hmm.
whole thing there was, we could build a metagraph. So metagraphs are subnets on the network, and they're essentially layer one network. So any metagraph is a layer one network. And
Okay.
right now we have this campaign with base, and Joao, what he's doing, he's building this upsider metagraph. And the upsider, like right now, people can buy the up token. It's on the base ecosystem.
Hmm.
But he's also building a metagraph on Constellation to leverage the scalability and the customization that you could have with this distributed ledger technology. And what he was saying is he could he could build that metagraph for in under an hour, like have it
That's
fully,
insane.
yeah, fully. So yeah, I mean, so when that SDK kit actually hit, there was somebody from the community that timed it. Now this is somebody with a little bit of knowledge in development, but
Hmm.
he launched a metagraph just to show people how quickly you could do this. You download the SDK, you set it up in a local environment, and he did this in like 15 minutes. So I mean, just think about that for a second. You could build and deploy an entire layer one chain in 15 minutes. Like that's fucking incredible. I don't care who
Yeah.
you are, what network you're talking
And you
about.
can fully customize that to your specific needs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do something as simple as like just like minting a token, or you could have something like you said, like really complex to fit your needs of whatever your network is doing.
Hmm.
And Constellation's framework is completely unbounded, so there's no rules. Like Constellation doesn't say you can't do this and you can't do that. It's totally up to you. It's like make your own sandwich. I mean, you can do whatever you want on your chain. It's your chain. They're just providing the tools and the infrastructure support to build your own network.
Well, and that's a good segue into one of my questions is for those that are out there that maybe don't know about DAG, and that it is somewhat unique in blockchain. What, as far as scalability, security, and big data applications like AI, and different. I know that I know that there's some really cool projects with data verification, that are being built out on DAG. Just, I mean, what makes DAG different, I guess, is my question.
So what really makes it different is the fact that it can plug into existing systems. So that was one of the things and one of the reasons why they continue to lead with the Department of Defense is the Department of Defense uses a lot of like old archaic systems, but the reason why they use them is because they're tried and true, right? That they know that they work, and so they're not going to like uh, you know, just move on to like something new and different when they know that whatever that they're using for like nuclear launch codes like works. I mean, so that there's no reason to upgrade it. So one of the stipulations with the Department of Defense is whatever they brought to them has to be able to just plug right into their existing systems. And this is one of the beauties of Constellation. You can just plug it in to whatever you have. It's
Mm,
just you're adding an additional layer of security to whatever system that you already have. And so
got
that I think is is their biggest advantage there.
it. All right.
Now, will that be able to, like you said, these systems that the government has, ideally it would be nice to transition fully out of that old archaic system. Eventually things will break and stuff, and you want to move to a more secure, verifiable system. Is there a way to transition fully out of that over time? Like, is
But
there, I know
yeah,
it's
but
kind
I
of like
mean,
flying side by side, but
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you don't even need to get fully out of.
okay.
You're just adding another security layer to just make whatever system that you have even more secure. You're adding like an additional layer to it, right? So I'm going to give you an example of something that's been in the news recently. So like the Signal stuff. So like
Mhm.
Signal, everybody thinks that it's like a super secure app, and it like essentially it is. But what I mean, what
It's only
happened
signal
with
to signal, right? Not
yeah, I mean,
signal to
yeah,
your.
yeah, but what happened with there was somebody,
Somebody added that reporter to the chat,
right.
and yeah,
And so, like with Constellation's solution that they already have with the DoD, right? I'm just going to give you like an example of how this could work.
it
Is
could have prevented that.
yeah, so you could have like a secure wallet sign in, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and you could have like 5 account holders, right? And so like all you would need is 3 approvals,
Hmm.
3 people to sign off. And so if they're going to bring somebody into this chat, they would need 3 out of the 5 to say like, okay, this guy can get added into the group, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, and that can easily, I mean, that is something that they're already doing.
and that's what's insane to me is that with this technology, I mean, with blockchain, I mean, you could have secure, transparent, trustworthy, voting, when it comes to presidential elections, things like that. There's so many use cases and applications for this technology. It's insane to me that it hasn't been adopted quicker than it is currently being I'm trying to think of how
Yeah.
to best say it.
Well, I mean, part of the reason there is because these subnets, these metagraphs that I'm talking about, like that
Yeah,
that that has only really been a thing for about a year, right?
yeah,
But the work that they've done with the Department of Defense has been ongoing since 2019. But so they've
mm,
already proven themselves to the Department of Defense that they can do all of these things, and
mm,
they can do all of these things like at scale. So like one of the first use cases that they did with the Department of Defense is with U.S. Transcom, and
okay,
there's a subset of U.S. Transcom called the Civil Reserve Air Fleet, and essentially
yeah,
what that is for the people that aren't in the military that don't have any understanding of any of that. So U.S. Transcom is like the logistics operation for the entire military.
mm,
They move troops, they move supplies, they move everything all around the globe.
yeah,
Um, and so in times of need to augment like the military airlift support, they can call upon civilian airlines to move goods, to move troops all across the world. And so
oh
they
yeah. No, there's a couple times on my deployments that we took civilian aircraft.
Yeah. And so the Civil Reserve Air Fleet, like I don't know if I mean you could bring up the website there. I mean it's made up of essentially every major airline in the United States. So we're talking about American Airlines, Alaskan Airlines, United, Delta, Southwest, all these people. And so what these airlines do is they'll bid on contracts. So they'll bid on contracts like let's say the military wants to send in, Navy SEALs, for example, like to Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to send them in on an Air Force C-130 because every motherfucker will know, oh shit, the U.S. just landed in Ukraine.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No,
but
you
if
went
you
OPSEC.
yeah, but if you fly in a FedEx jet, like nobody's going to think about it because FedEx flies all over the world, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so they essentially built a data exchange for the Civil Reserve Air Fleet, so these different airlines could bid on contracts in a secure manner.
Yeah, it's actually something that like a use case that is kind of near and dear to my heart, and I've seen a couple of people talking about it on X, since we started chatting. But one of it is using the Constellation DAG for secure comms, and I know that they're doing some work with some satellite companies and things like that. But for like UAVs and drones, for secure communications, control, and then also sense and avoid. So it was one of the big issues that I had when I was doing wildfire was I was trying to get them to understand the value of having small UAS in the airspace, specifically for keeping an eye on how the fire was moving in real time,
Hmm.
so that we could, if the wind shifted and before we got trapped by fire, those small UAS could actually be used by us on the ground, with small handheld units to find our way out.
Hmm.
Because it's when you're on the ground, I mean every second counts. And so I
Hmm.
was trying to explain to them, because of layered airspace,
Hmm.
that there's way to deconflict between man and unmanned. But I'm wondering if you've heard of anybody talking about using this in that use case to where it could almost automatically deconflict airspace.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly some of the use cases that they're already doing, and
Okay.
they're doing some of that in space right now. Like there's a company, Forward Edge AI, that's a part of it
Mhm.
that has a quantum resistant encryptor. And so, like right now, there's satellite communications going on right now, leveraging this technology. As a matter of fact, so Panasonic is part of this new public solution, but they transitioned over from the Department of Defense like craft solution. So like what a lot of people might not realize is like next time you're on an airplane on any flight, just have a look at the cockpit when you're boarding or when you're getting off, and I guarantee you're going to see like a big laptop bag, and
Mhm.
in there is a tough book. Like,
Oh yeah, no, tough
yeah,
books are everywhere. We used them extensively on every deployment that I went on.
yeah.
And don't they have
And
like an
so
AI chip in them now?
yeah, they have a dedicated AI chip in them, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
like that's how Panasonic got on board, is this work that they've done with the Department of Defense. So like at the DC Blockchain Week, like one of the things that they were talking about, one of the examples was, so these tough books actually have a dual GPS receiver, right? So on
Oh,
one, yeah, so on one end you can have the tough book sending out like erroneous false data, right? Because you
nice.
don't because you
So
don't
a
want
little
people.
bit of counter intel. My laptop is doing counter intel.
Yeah, because you don't want people knowing like where you're at, right?
Oh
But then
no, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah,
like I said, I mean,
but
we're rolling
then on
around with
the
tough books. We don't want people like being able to like geo track us.
right, but then on the other net, but on the other end, on the other channel, because like I said, it's got two GPS receivers. So one is just spitting out like bullshit, right? And then on the other end, you have this secure, encrypted, unhackable, unspoofable direct line of communication, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you could see the value
Mhm.
there.
No, like I said, from an operational standpoint, yeah, no, absolutely, I can see the value there, and that's kind of and again, the person over on Drew over at Blockchain Basement, he's the one that first told me about DAG, and got me. I actually sold. I had like 30,000 XRP, and it's right when XRP started pumping. I got like a 2 or 3x, and I actually sold all my XRP and bought DAG and Arrow, and so I have quite the bag of DAG now. Um, but yeah, I mean that was the thing that really drew me in about DAG was one, it's working with the Department of Defense, so it's of course near and dear to my heart, but of course, the use cases, and with AI, with the tough books, with encrypted, communications, and just was able to see the potential of what it could become if it's curated properly. And it looks to be that that is the case, that it is being curated properly.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up AI, right? So, like, what a lot of, and I've talked about this a lot since the announcement, and I even talked about it a lot before the announcement. Just because I do so outside of the stuff with Stardust, I actually do a lot of like business development stuff with the core team, right? So during the summer, like leading up to high def, like I already was aware of the work that they were doing with Common Crawl, and I was telling everybody that pretty soon you're not going to be able to talk about artificial intelligence and blockchain without talking about Constellation Network.
Well,
So
tell us a little more about Common Crawl, because I
yeah,
know that that's a huge partnership.
yeah. So Common Crawl, for the people that aren't aware of like what they do, they are one of the largest crawlers of data in the world. They've been doing it longer than anybody else, and essentially, they're the foundational basis for every large language model on the planet. So we're talking about
Damn.
OpenAI. Like,
Mm.
where did they get all of their data for ChatGPT? They got it from Common Crawl. Uh,
Damn.
like Elon Musk, his like XAI, Grok, right? Where did they get all the data to train Grok? They got it from Common Crawl, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That is
Huh.
huge.
yeah. So like you can fact check me right now. I mean, just Google it. Just look to see.
I'll ask Grok.
Just ask, yeah, just Grok it, right?
I'll
I mean,
Grok it.
yeah, so Common Crawl is the foundational basis for essentially every large language model on the planet. And so
Weird.
what Common Crawl is doing now with Constellation is they built a metagraph, they built a blockchain, and so they have verified data proofs of like where they got their model. And so how does that apply, and how is that applicable to everyone else? So, like, let's say you wanted to build a large language model or an AI agent that, I don't know, like specialized in healthcare, right? Where would you go to get the most accurate, verified data? Because as we know, a lot of
Hmm.
data is bullshit, right? Well, you're going to go to someone that can prove that the data that they have is what they say that they have, right? And that was kind of Ben's message at DC Blockchain, right?
Yeah.
So he used a different analogy, like with grains of sand. But I prior to that, I've used the analogy of like oil, right? Because that's something that like everyone's talked about. Like data is the new oil, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, but but it still needs to be refined.
You have to pull it
exactly.
out, refine it, and
Exactly,
yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I mean, like data is everywhere, right? And like
But
to his,
as
to
we all
his,
know, a lot of it's shit.
yeah, a lot of it's good, right? And so, like to his point, and this was great about his analogy about the grains of sand, right? Is
Mhm.
like every single day now, the amount of data that's produced every single second represents about 8% of the sand on all of the world's beaches, and that's every single second, right? So you can just think about just
I actually heard that,
yeah,
and not to be like dramatic, but I was like, I mean, I literally, I think I audibly said, "Holy shit!" I mean,
yeah,
8% of the grains of sand in all the world. I mean, that is a massive amount, and
yeah,
this is something that I really wanted to ask you is because of the architecture of DAG and how it's not linear like most blockchains, is that what allows it to have that ability to be able to how do I put this to almost have more than one route, to have like a primary, a secondary and a tertiary, and on and on and on route to take to verify data, to find data, to run a process, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, so like the architecture, right,
Yeah.
is nothing new. Like
No.
yeah, I mean, Constellation didn't invent the directed acyclic graph. Like the directed acyclic graph has been used in databases since like the 80s, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a reason for it, right? I mean, just look at like Merkle trees and like all that stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it's a better way.
Yeah. Look at a
To,
flow chart.
yeah, it's a better way to handle your data, and that's exactly why in the very beginning why they chose this architecture
Mhm.
is because of that and because of the scalability of the DAG architecture, and
So this is what Grok said when I asked it if it used a common crawl. It says, "You're trying to peek under the hood, huh? I don't have a simple yes or no answer for you. My creators at XAI use a variety of sources to feed me data, and Common Crawl, being a massive, publicly available web archive, could very well be part of the mix. But I am not privy to the exact recipe.
yeah,
It's all blended into a big, tasty knowledge stew." So basically, it's doing the politician tap dance.
yeah,
It doesn't want to tell me that that's where it gets it.
it's basically telling you without telling you that that's where it's getting all of its data.
Absolutely. So
Yeah, and
I
so
just
like
wanted to share that.
yeah, and so now you'll have like verified proofs, right? And then moving forward, where the trustworthiness of this all comes in, and like where this like verified check mark comes in, is you're not. I mean, you can have like a black box system, right? I mean, that's absolutely possible. But how do you know that that model is trustworthy? One. Number two, how do you know that the model hasn't been spoofed at all? How do you know somebody just didn't copy it and like inject some erroneous code into it? I mean, you don't know.
Mhm.
The only way that you could do that is with blockchain. So I think the future of artificial intelligence in general is with blockchain, because blockchain is the only way that you're ever going to be able to trust anything and everything that has to do with AI. I mean, it's just going to be a thing, right? And
Well,
then
it
Oh, what
has
you
to.
were bringing up the other day about verifying whether or not something was created with AI,
yeah,
like maybe deep fakes and stuff,
That's going to be
how,
huge.
yeah.
yeah, and then so like the inverse is true also, right? Because like I mean, I don't have any problem with artificial intelligence. I mean, I think that artificial intelligence is going to transform humanity for a lot of good, right? But then it also has the potential to do a lot of bad stuff. But you just have to be able to trust it. What I'm saying is uh, the
Do you
artificial
want to play
intelligence
a
systems
game?
the artificial intelligence systems that we let into our daily lives to touch the stuffs about us, the only way that's ever going to be meaningful is if you can trust it, and the only way to trust it is to have like a verifiable proof, right? And the only way you can do that is with blockchain's immutability. You can show with an absolute certainty that this model is what it says it is. But then,
Hmm.
like you were saying, like the inverse is also true. I think that there's also the same possibility to leverage blockchain to verify if something uh, is used with AI or it isn't. And where that comes in is like with the video stuff. Like right now, it's so easy. I mean,
Mhm.
just use Grok to just have it say, Grok, make me a photorealistic image of bros at the beach. And I promise you, the image that it makes, you won't be able to tell that thing is fake. It's indistinguishable between like reality. And
Mhm.
the videos, like the real-time videos are even like so good. So like from a government standpoint, you could see where this could be a big problem. Somebody could hack a news feed have a live footage of like Trump saying, we're going to nuke Russia right now. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
and you can see why that would
Mhm.
be a big problem. So what I'm saying is moving forward, I see a future where any video feed coming from the government is going to have like a digital watermark to where you'll be able to know without a shadow of a doubt that this is a real video feed. Like this is actually Trump talking and saying the stuff that he's saying.
There has to be something like that, because I mean, even in the infancy of AI where we're at now, I mean, there's some stuff it's really hard to tell if it's real or not. Some of the UFO stuff that people put out, it's insane. I can only imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years, let alone 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to prevent that propaganda, that could be an easy way to manipulate people and to have something that verifies like, hey, this is fake. We desperately need that going forward, at least to staying ahead of the curve. And what you said about the uh, the quantum hacking prevention,
Quantum resistant.
yeah, quantum resistant, that's definitely going to need to happen, in the future to prevent quantum attacks on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's dive into the topic of regulation. This past week, obviously in the DC Summit, there was a lot of the government officials, and Dag was there, Cardano was there. I saw that you had a nice selfie with the founder of Cardano, and what have you been hearing as far as how quickly and how effective the regulation that is coming is going to be to really lay the foundation for blockchain technology to be adopted and have the necessary guidelines, because we all know that over the past, up until recently, with the new administration, it was, we were wondering if blockchain was even going to be allowed in the United States for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But now it seems like that it's they're sprinting to try to get this done to catch up with the other countries that were a little more forward, leaning forward to develop those guidelines. What are you hearing and what are you seeing that is getting us to that place to where we can really watch this take off?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that there's no question that today this is the most pro crypto government that we've ever had.
Mm.
In November, I mean, aside from electing Trump, who that was part of his platform. I mean, you had members of Congress on both sides. So you had Senate and House on both sides. Like this wasn't just like a Republican thing, or you had people from both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, that got elected because of their pro crypto stance.
Mm.
In November, if you were against crypto, you either A, didn't get reelected, or B, you didn't get newly elected, right? And so the message
Mm.
was loud and clear. I mean, there is one party now in the United States, and it's the party of blockchain. And this administration has made it its mission for the United States to be the world leader in digital assets. And they are working day and night to make sure that that happens. And part of this commitment to it is, I'm just going to simplify things for everybody listening, because I don't know
Please
where.
do.
Yeah, I don't know where everybody.
I'm just an old vet in the woods. I need things simple.
But so, like, well, I mean, there's other people across the world that might not understand like how things become law in the United States. But typically, how it starts is you put a bill in the House, and then they vote on it, and then it gets moves to the Senate, and then the Senate, has their say on it. And sometimes they'll say, "Hey, this is good," and then they'll pass it up to the president's desk. But more oftentimes than not, the Senate says, like, "No, we don't want this," and then they send it back to the
or we don't want this part of it.
right. And then there's this like back and forth shenanigans like forever, right? but this time with crypto and the stable coin, the House and the Senate are working on it jointly. And so what's going to happen?
Really?
Yeah. So what's going to happen is whenever they finalize the thing, there is going to be no back and forth. It's a joint effort, and it's going to go boom right to the president's desk. And
That's I had not heard that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and I promise you that he's going to sign whatever gets to his desk. And
With that crazy signature he has.
He's a-
yeah, because he wants this to happen. He wants to bring back, innovation to America. I mean, regardless of whatever you think about the president, right? He does, he wants to make it, his mission, to bring back, America as like a powerhouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
A, a tech superpower.
yeah, and so I mean, he's going to do whatever needs to be done to make that happen, right? Because if you're looking at it from one lens, that like he's like this egotistical person that only cares about himself, right? Okay, so how is he going to do that? Is he going to do that by wrecking the economy, right? And so he doesn't want to go down as like the president that wrecked the economy, right?
Mhm.
From a selfish standpoint, like he wants to bring back America better than ever before, and like how does he, and then be remembered and immortalized as like the guy that like turned everything around, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like, I mean, who cares what the reason is as long as the net benefit is positive for this country, right?
Mhm.
That's my view on it.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
with the regulation and stuff in question over the past 4 years, how has DAG been able to work with the Department of Defense on building that out? Like, what did that look like? As did they approach the government and say, "Hey, we want to work with you"? Like, how did that go with such little regulation and uncertainty, in the crypto space?
That's a really good question.
Because they
With
started developing in 2019 with
Yeah,
the
they started
Department of Defense.
developing in 2019. So initially, it started out as a grant, as a research grant, SBIR, right?
mm,
Um, and I hate to break it to all the people that try to piss in my Cheerios every fucking day on X, but you know what? Getting getting an SBIR grant is not that easy, right?
no,
Yeah, most people just never even get approved, and then from there, if you want continued funding, you have to prove it is whatever your solution is. And then so they went from a phase 1 to a phase 2. And again,
Mhm.
I hate to fucking break it to the people who piss in Cheerios, but the amount of people that go from phase 1 to phase 2 is like less than 7%. I mean, it's fucking so small. It's like an elite club of people that go
Shit.
from and this was a direct phase 1 to phase 2. And then from then in 2023, they went, the Iron Spider program went direct into production. So it's like a fully,
that just sounds cool. Iron Spider.
yeah. So it's like a fully like fledged thing that, is deployed and, in operation by the Department of Defense. Right. So like,
They must have been really impressed.
yeah, well, I mean, because it serves a lot of needs, and it's completely flexible, and
Hmm.
like the stuff that they do and they offer for the public, it's the same thing. The military has their own blockchain in a box, right? And they can use it however they want to use it in all the different ways that they want to use it. It's totally up to them.
Well, there's a couple of questions that I know that you're short on time, and so I want to be respectful of that. But there's definitely a couple of questions that I have that I wanted to get from you. But one of them is with Charles Hodgkinson moderating a panel, featuring Donald Trump Jr. in the DC Blockchain Summit. Did Constellation's leadership address potential synergies with DAG and other blockchain ecosystems like Cardano for economic empowerment?
Yeah, so I mean, I posted that picture of me and Charles. So I talked to Charles.
Exactly.
Yeah, I talked to Charles for like 30 minutes, and so Constellation understands that this isn't a winner take all thing. Even the Iron Spider is a network of networks. Like Simba Chain is a part of the Iron Spider program, right? There isn't going to be like just one solution.
The one ring that rules them all.
The one ring there's, I mean, that's just not going to happen. I mean, even so, Constellation is even part of like bigger initiatives like the Decentralized Recovery Alliance that Hedera is involved with and Cardano is involved with. And like what Charles was interested in is like forming some sort of like, standard, because there like that needs to be done. Like there is no sort of like uniform standard of like what like secure data is, or like what interoperability is, right?
So do you mean
because we have that in engineering electronics? You got the IEEE that have standards for all that stuff.
Now,
or
are we
like
talking from an industry standard or a regulatory standard?
No, like an industry standard, right?
Okay,
So for instance, like with the payment stuff, you have ISO, right? And like that's a standard. So ISO is like a messaging standard for banks, right? But with crypto, you don't really have like an interoperability standard that like everybody can agree on, because the only way for this stuff to be mass adopted is for something like that to happen, right? I mean, like, can you imagine like one website not being able to talk to like another website just because it's a different website, because it's on like because it's on an AWS server versus like a Google cloud server, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't happen, right? But we need for that to happen with distributed ledger technology. We need some sort of like uniform standard to where everything can just work together seamlessly on the back end. Because for mass adoption to truly happen and to truly flourish, these things are just going to happen in the background, and nobody's really going to care that it's running on Cardano or running on Constellation or running on, Hedera. These apps are just going to work, but they need to be able to communicate with one another.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's, kind of the, when the internet first started, that was the issue. And I believe it was, what is it? The HTTP or something like that is what made it to where, basically, everything could talk to everything. And, till it wasn't just, you going to, each one of the websites. It was, I actually became a web or a network. If I understand it properly, but so my last question that I had was the proof of reputation consensus model that rewards nodes based on reputation. That's something I have never heard of. What is that exactly, and how does it work?
Okay, so that consensus model, the proof of reputable observation, is like assigning a trust score and an attribution score to nodes. That's their consensus.
So like a social credit score.
I mean, kinda. I mean, like, so your node. So like, I have a node right on the network that's validating data for the main hypergraph, like the layer 0 component of it.
Oh, and
right?
I'll be putting some of my DAG on it for sure.
So, would you like if you were running a blockchain that that's built on the, well, like Panasonic, right? So Panasonic now has the Toughbook blockchain that's on the network. Well, would Panasonic want my node validating their network if like my node isn't on all the time, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
would they want a node that has like 100% uptime validating their data, right? And so
Absolutely.
that's, yeah, and so like that's where these like trust scores comes in, right? Is like my node would have a higher reputation because I take care of my node. I make sure that my node
Mm-hmm.
is always up to date with the latest stuff from the network. I make sure that it never goes down. But then outside of that, right, you could potentially do things, like geofencing, right? For example, so like let's say, you know, you had a network that was based off of like voting, right? So you wouldn't want somebody from China to participate in voting election,
Oh,
in the city of
I
Houston.
think. Oh, you good?
Yeah,
We're good.
You dropped
yeah,
off for a second.
right. Right, and so
Yeah, you don't want someone from outside the country coming into your local elections or national elections.
yeah. So the proof of reputable observation has already been validated by the Air Force Research Laboratory. But to answer your question, like that consensus hasn't been moved over to the public network.
Okay.
Right now the network itself is a permissioned network. But proof of reputable observation would, when it turns over to the public side, would make the network a permissionless network.
I know this gentleman. I've been going back and forth with him on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. This guy's, yeah. Everybody give that dude a follow. He's legit, man.
Connect
You
the
know,
tech.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
wasn't he an airline pilot?
yeah, this guy gets it. He's really good at uh, replying and engaging in comments. I mean, that's one thing that uh, just kind of astounds me with the. So I started out, with 0 followers, right? And how I built the following that I have was, in the very beginning, I was 100% just replying to big accounts, right? Because I understand how the algorithm works,
No,
and it's,
absolutely.
yeah, and it's kind of frustrating to see.
So this is him right here at Connect with HEC Hotel Echo Charlie.
Yeah, yeah, and he asks great questions, and he's really engaging in everybody's content, right? So yeah, I would follow that guy. He's great.
So so I guess I mean like we're got about 8 minutes left for the hour. I guess my kind of last question that I have personally is I know with the nodes that we can delegate our DAG. If you can tell us a little bit how that's going to work and like potentially what we could earn by doing that, and then also if you want to kind of give a little bit of a rundown on the Stargazer wallet and the upcoming PACA swap airdrop and DEX, because that's kind of my area that I'm very passionate about um, is DeFi, and so
Mhm.
that's something. But yeah, if you could touch on those two things, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, so if I'm gonna
This screen
try
up?
to, yeah, I'm gonna try to share my screen if that's okay,
Yeah, I think
because
it's up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
yeah, it would just make it a lot easier. Okay, so let me so I think right now I have the Explorer up, and then hold on. What I'm trying to do is find another picture. Okay, so I've got the DAG Explorer up. So this this isn't updated. Soon, this Explorer will be updated, and you'll be able to go to like this Node Explorer, for example, right? And these validators, you can see like the validators
Hmm.
on the network, and you'll be able to like stake your DAG to any one of these validators on the network. And essentially what that's going to look like, I'm going to share this one instead. So this is what the new Explorer will look like. And so you can see here where it has a list of validators. And so you'll just, through your Stargazer wallet, you'll connect it because it's a Chrome or a browser extension.
Hmm.
And once your wallet is signed in, you can just delegate your holdings to any one of these validators that's on the network. And that's
And what kind of earnings could we expect to get from that?
I think it's a fixed like 3% APY. Uh,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And then
And
speaking
that's
of
different than
stargazing,
the like liquidity pools, right? Because I delegate some stuff on the Cosmos ecosystem,
Yeah.
and it's similar. It's under 10%, but you're getting that from providing support for the validators and delegators, but it's different than actual liquidity pools. So those will
oh,
earn
absolutely.
usually higher, right?
It's more like staking.
Yeah,
You're
you're
Right.
just
you're
Yeah.
supporting the network.
you're delegating your voting your voting power or whatever to the node, and then that allows them to basically dictate how the network is run and things like that. And in most
Right.
cases,
So if you wanted to learn like more about it, you can go to the website, which I've got
Yeah, I
pulled
get
up
that
right.
pulled up.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up right here, and there's this introduction page, which is really good.
hmm,
And you can go over here to delegation, and it talks about what it is. And so here's that 3%.
perfect.
Yeah, here's that 3% that I was talking about. And so like I have a node, right? And so essentially what you're doing is you're taking not everybody has a node, one. Number two, not everybody has the collateral for a node. And so what
And
delegate
it's 250K, right?
yeah. And so what
250,000 DAG.
Right. And then so what delegation allows people to do is they can stake any amount. So like maybe some people only have like, 10,000 DAG. But that's not enough for a node, but you can
Mhm.
delegate that 10,000 to somebody that has a node, and you're just putting it on uh, you know that network resources for a share of that. And
Mhm.
what delegators do is, why it's good for them to participate in this is they get compensated by like 5 to 10% of the delegation fees, for people that delegate to that. But like so the other day I made a post publicly, um, that I've had a node like for forever. I'm gonna allow people to delegate to my node, but as incentive of like why people would want to delegate to my node on top of getting that fixed 3%, because everybody
Hmm.
that stakes to like my node or any node, you'll get that 3%. But what I'm trying to do is incentivize participation, going back to like what I was saying, like with the reply stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be paying attention to the people that are engaging with my content directly, and I'm going to be doing like weekly airdrops to the top people that participate in my community. And then on top of that, I guess depending on like how big the pool gets, I was even thinking about doing like monthly giveaways, because you can see everybody that's staked to your node, and I'll just pick like a random address on there and just be like, bam, here's, like however much DAG. And I just did that the other
I
day.
was gonna say, you already did. You sent like 10,000 DAG to somebody.
Yeah, I gave this guy Levi.
Mhm.
He's definitely been one of the best, most active participants. Not just to me directly, but if you
Oh,
look
he's the one that donated the 100 PACA for us to give away, on this episode.
See, there you go. I mean, that has nothing to do with me. This is like you. He's supporting you. Like
Yeah.
this guy gets it, man. Like, and he even like showed metrics. Like he replies something like 100x more than he posts, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, that's the kind of behavior that I want to reward. So, like, I gave him my essentially all of my validator rewards for the month of March. So I gave him like 10,000 DAG. It was like,
Shit.
like almost $500 or whatever,
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
you know, and, I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's what I want to support. I want to support stuff like that. And I want to support people like that. And so that's what I'm going to do. And
That's awesome. No, that really is awesome. But well, I guess then my last question is let's go out on the PACA swap and the DeFi, the DeFi
Mm.
platform that's going to be launching soon, and maybe give people a little bit of a rundown on how the airdrop's going to work and things like that.
so Packaswap is set to release sometime in April. That'll be the first decentralized exchange on the network. The token of the exchange is going to be swap.
Mhm.
The airdrop is going to happen. So anybody that's holding DAG, PACA, or Lattice LTX in their Stargazer wallet is eligible for the drop. The largest share of the drop is going to go to PACA and DAG holders. So it really pays to hold. The more DAG and PACA and Lattice you hold in your wallet, the bigger drop you're going to get.
Mm.
No,
So
And
I'm
Lattice
pretty
is only on ETH.
yeah,
Okay.
Lattice is on ETH, and that's like the governance token for the Lattice gateway. But yeah, so
Okay.
it's going to be completely fair launch the DEX, but the airdrop is going to go out to those specific tokens, and if it's in your wallet, yeah, there you go. You have it. You have the distribution, right up there. So, that's how it's going to play out. So it's really going to benefit the people that have been holding, and I mean,
Is it going to be live or is it testnet first?
uh, well, yeah. So first they're going to have, you know, yeah, obviously first they're going to test it out for a little bit before they deploy it
Okay.
publicly. But the goal is to have it live sometime in April.
nice.
Now, who's doing the testing on that? Do they do a public testnet or is it just kind of private?
I think that they're going to open it up to the people that staked that wanted to be validators. So they're going to open. So they said that they're going to
Okay.
need like 120 validators to begin with. And I think initially the test is just going to be like those people that
Okay.
like the
Okay.
120 or so uh, validators there.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the show
Yeah.
here, and so anybody that is if you could please like and follow Dagnum, Blockchain Report, and of course us here. And if you want to be entered to win that 100 PACA, make sure that you like and share the post about the stream here. let's get the word out about DAG and really grow the community. And I usually end each show with just kind of going around the horn and just kind of Dagnum, if you want to, since you're the guest, if you want to just kind of give any closing thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, I mean, outside of DAG, I just wish that people would just take a moment and realize that there's an abundance of opportunity around. You just have to get out of your own head and out of your own little, echo chamber. I made a point yesterday and today, as a matter of fact, because of that real world asset list that came out, right?
Yeah.
And Algorand is number 4, and almost nobody's talking about Algorand. So I talk about Algorand a lot. Like, Algorand is number 4. There's everybody and their fucking brother talking about XRP or Solana, right?
Mm-hmm.
XRP isn't even on that fucking list, dude.
Yeah.
Solana just barely made it. Algorand has 3 times the real world value that Solana has. But, somehow Solana has this like crazy inflated market cap. And,
it's all from memes from what I can see.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy, and it's just a matter of time, especially in this new age of regulation of where we're going, before people like Algorand really go parabolic, because they're actually doing real shit, 1, and they can prove it, number 2, right?
Mhm.
So that's really what I hope that everybody does, is just not listen to the mainstream narrative. Just because there's 1,000 people telling you XRP is the best and only asset doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, right?
Yeah.
Just go out there and do your own research.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Jeff, got any closing?
Oh, yeah, how do we want to handle this giveaway?
So
because we got people on X, we got YouTube.
Yeah, no, we got just shy of 200 people watching. So basically, what I did is I put out a post that had the stream, they're talking about the stream here, and they just have to like that, share it, and then follow the channel, and I'll just look and see, and I'll do a random number generator, and whoever's number comes up, I'll reach out to them, and that's why they need to follow us on X, is so that I can friend them and send them a message and say, hey, send me your wallet address.
Okay.
So
yeah.
It's that's why Levi gave it to us, is he wanted to thank us for kind of putting the good word out and spreading growing the community. And
how much did Levi give?
He gave 100.
All right, I'm gonna I'll double it. So,
you're gonna sweeten the pot. All right. Yeah,
I'll put in like 200.
All right,
200,
cool.
200 PACA.
All right, so we got 300 PACA going out to some lucky winner that you can throw in your wallet with your Stargazer wallet with your DAG. So if you don't have a Stargazer wallet and you did the like and share and everything, get you a Stargazer wallet, because we're gonna be sending you some PACA.
All right,
Dagnum, I appreciate you, man. I really really do appreciate you coming on, because I had personally had a lot of questions, and I know a lot of people out there do, because there's a serious lack of individuals that are deeply as steeped as you are in the DAG ecosystem, and the connections that you have, just the way that you're able to engage certain people, and the personal time that you take to go out to DC and to meet these people, and to to get this information and try to give it to all of us on a silver platter. So for that, I thank you. But I guess with that, we'll call it.
Yeah. Appreciate it, everyone.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Take care.